Hello, welcome to my channel where I do guides for post-processing software, image software, and today we are going to continue our series on how to process images inside of Luminar 3. So the last episode we went through the layout, the user interface, and today we are going to develop our first photo. So this is an underexposed photo. Reason is because I wanted to make sure that the snow wasn't too highlighted, too white. And we're just gonna process this photo with very basic settings. So as you see here, I have nothing under here, under clear workspace. That's simply because I have cleared my workspace. But we are gonna add or go through what the different workspaces do. So if you go into professional, that's a workspace preset that's meant for a complete image edit, and everything else is kind of an extra under the filters. So you should be able to do the most of the edits you want to do inside of this workspace. Next, you have, I think it's quick and awesome. That's pretty awesome. So let's have a look here. So you have the accent AI filter, and that is kind of a artificial intelligence filter that mixes together the bright parts and the dark parts and push it all together into the midtones. I'm not explaining this well. Let's just see what happens instead of me trying to go into details. So if I push up the boost, you can see that it's changing the color tones and the darker tones. So now we have a pretty okay toning. You also have the sky enhancer, so that would enhance the sky, obviously. So the blue skies will be a lot more blue. So if you go up to 100, you have a really blue sky. It looks kind of unnatural. But if we have it around 19, it looks kind of good. Let's go up on the AI filter. So this is almost a done picture. Actually, it's not too far from being done. If we want to develop images really quickly inside of Luminar 3, this is the way to do it. Yeah, I would like to tweak the shadows more and maybe go up a bit on the exposure, but if this image was correctly exposed to start with, this would have been a done image, so to say. So this is the quick and awesome. Now you have the essentials, so that's the bare essentials, and here you could go up on the exposure, the shadows, really pull in the shadows so you get more details over there, and the contrast and stuff like that. So this is the very basic toning, and by doing the toning inside here you can really control a lot. And now suddenly this image isn't far from done. So this is pretty good actually. I would say it's almost a complete picture. So that's under the essentials, and you have a lot of other stuff here as well. So we could put a vignette on. So the vignette is, of course, when you see the corners being more dark than the rest of the image, it means it's a vignette put on the image. Or if the corners are brighter, because you can go up in the brightness as well and create really a bright vignette. And it kind of works on this image because of the snow. So it might work even better than a dark vignette. But usually it's a dark vignette people use. So, and you can change the size and you can change pretty much everything. So if we go down a lot on the amount, and if I show you and go down on the feather, you can see this is the basic frame for the vignette, and you can change the size. You can really have a hard vignette. Let's go up on the feather. You can see it's a pretty dark around there. So you can adjust the vignette to where you want it. In this case, I would maybe go for something like this. And you can also move the vignette. So I can move it by clicking the play center, And maybe I want to move it just slightly over to the right corner. That's not the right corner. So something like that. Let's put the feather up again and the amount to something more sensible. And I'm gonna go up even more on the feather. And there you have it. That's a basic edit. It's pretty much complete. If you're using a raw image, maybe you would want to go into the lens corrections and do the auto correction for the lens. If there's any distortion on the lens, it will correct it by going in here. And maybe you would click on the diffringe as well, especially if you're doing some pictures with really hard edges. A diffringe would maybe be smart. And I will call this edit done. But let's clear the workspace again. Okay, so let's continue here. So now we know a little bit about workspaces, so we are gonna do the very essential here, so the very basic. So let's go into the essential and let's go to adjust, and we're gonna start with the color temperature. I think it's fine in this image. I'm not gonna touch it yet. So let's just up the exposure just a little bit. And you can see by the histogram that everything is pushed to the darker parts or the shadowy parts. Right now it's at the mid-tones. So we have a lot of mid-tones, but we do not have a lot of brightness. So we can push the exposure even more. So let's do that. Let's put it up at least one step here. Let's go down on the highlights. Maybe we can push it even more here. I'm gonna put up the shadows a bunch. Not too much maybe. Let's do 2 around there. Okay, so I'm gonna enable the clipping view. So the clipping view, if you look here now on the histogram, now you don't see the yellow triangles, but if I hit the J key on my keyboard, you suddenly see the yellow triangles. So that means we have activated the clipping view. So if I go up on the exposure, you can see that we are clipping the highlights or the whites. So basically there's too much white. The red you see here now is 100% white, and we can't have 100% white because first of all there's no details in 100% white. Second of all, being that there's no details, if you would want to print this image, nothing would be printed for all the red that you see here. So that's what the red means here, and that's why we would want to use a clipping view for the initial toning. So let's go down again. Let's go to around 1 step. We still have the clipping view enabled, so if we go too bright, we are gonna see it right away. I'm gonna up the contrast just a little bit. We can go up on the whites, being that we aren't clipping yet. So let's just try and go up. I don't want to go up too much though. So it's almost strange that we aren't clipping yet. That's kind of surprising. Let me go down just a bit on the whites and let's go up more on the exposure. I think that might be better. So to around there. A bit over 1 step, so almost 1.5 step. Yeah, that's looking good. Let's go down on the highlights. Let's go up more on the whites, maybe more on the shadows. It's starting to look good now. I'm just gonna go down on the blacks. Even though I want to have details here, I think it's important for us to have some blacks now. Okay, so yeah, this is okay, I guess. We can go in and do some clarity. So I'm in 100% now. I think I focused over here. So it's the image is the most sharp over here. So if we go up on the clarity, it should be pretty sharp over here, and it should actually make this a bit sharper. but clarity is not actually sharpening. It's more, well, it's sharpening because it's pulling out the contrasts between the brighter pixels and the darker pixels. Okay, so yeah, I kind of like this. Let's boost the accent AI filter again. Let's just crank it up and see what it does. And it's not doing much. And that's basically because we did do a pretty good toning. So it's not doing as much as before. So if we go down, you can see that the difference isn't all that huge, but it's kind of interesting. It does do something. If we were inside the professional workspace, we would have a gradient that we could put on top of the tree line. So a gradient, basically it would mean that we could control whatever is above or under our gradient. And in this case, if I placed a gradient here, I could lower everything above there. So I could darken the sky in this way. Anyway, I can use the AI Sky Enhancer, but I'm afraid it's also gonna pull out the blues from the foreground. But let's just check and see what happens. Yeah, so it didn't touch the foreground too bad, and it certainly makes the sky a bit more interesting. So that's nice. We can now do the saturation if we want to. So we can pull in some more pop in the colors, and that actually turned out really awesome. Let's just go up slightly on the vibrance as well. Maybe it's a bit too much. Yeah, to around there, it's fine. The polarizing filter, it should do a good job for both the sky and the snow. And if you were in a nature scene or woodlands or were taking pictures of reflecting water, you could use the polarizing filter. It would kind of remove some of the reflection, the worst of the reflections. In this case, it will make the sky more blue and probably the snow. So let's just have a look there. So it's definitely made the sky more blue and some of the snow in the foreground. It's not too bad though, so let's check the before and after here. So this is without the polarizing filter, and this is with the polarizing filter. So I think the effect is maybe just a bit too much. Now, this is snow, and it has already a lot of structure. As you can see, the snow is pretty sharp, especially in the foreground, and it should be pretty sharp over here as well. But if we want more details and we want more structure, we can set the structure here. So structure is actually micro contrast, so it's the finer pixels, or so it's making the darkest, smallest pixels in details darker, and it's making the smallest, brightest pixels in details brighter, and it's very fine, refined contrast. But let's put some structure on there. We should see a difference right away, and it's actually enhancing and doing a pretty good job. So I'm kind of happy about that actually. Now I see I have a lot of dust spots, so if you are thinking what is all those dark spots, it's dust that's on my sensor. We will remove that. It's a simple job, but before we do, I kind of want to go through the rest here. So we have the vignette again, and I'm actually not gonna set the vignette right now. I want to go in and crop this photo for more dramatic effect somehow. So to crop it, you can either push the C key on your keyboard for crop, or you can go to the tools here and go into the crop. Okay, so now we can crop this photo. So I'm gonna go in more detail about how to crop, but I'm thinking I want a kind of a almost panoramic effect on this image. So I'm actually gonna go up to aspect on the top to the left here, and under aspect I'm going to click in on the 16:9 crop, and I think maybe I'm gonna lift this up to around there, so then we have at least some of the interest inside the rule of thirds. And I'm gonna go into what the rule of thirds are in another series of videos. So not the edit series, it's gonna be tips and tricks series. Anyway, let's either hit the enter key on the keyboard or the done button on the top right. Okay, so now we have cropped it. It looks pretty good, to be honest, just by doing the very essential edit. Let's do the lens corrections. So again, as long as you have or are working with a raw file, you can do lens corrections. I'm gonna go into lens and I'm gonna click on lens distortion, which corrects the distortion from the lens. And just in case, I'm actually gonna click into the fringe as well. You know, it takes a little while and it loads in the changes and it looks pretty good. We can go down to the vignette again. I showed you how to do that before, but let's just do a very basic vignette here. So let's drop the amount to around there, maybe down even more. And I would say that this creates a pretty interesting image. Now it's cleanup time. So cleanup time basically means that we need to clean up some of the spots here. And I kind of want to try and remove this one. So we go to the tools and then we go to erase. You can also use clone stamp, but that's for images that has less variation in the tones, less details, I would say. But we are gonna go deeper into those tools in a later episode. So by clicking on the erase, it's just gonna load us into the erase module. And as soon as we are loaded in, we can start and erase whatever dust spots or whatever we want to erase. So I usually set the size to slightly above the average sized spot and just go through and click on each of the spots. So if you don't have any spots, that's fine. You don't need to do anything. But if you are like me and changing your lens often, you might have some sensor spots on your images. Yeah, so that seems like it's most of the spots. Then let's try and remove this boy. I'm actually gonna go down just slightly on the size. And let's just paint it something like that. Let's remove some of the smaller lines here. I'm going down on the size again. I don't want to have too big size when removing stuff like this. So these are just stuff that I find disturbing. You don't have to remove this kind of details if you don't want to. I like to do that. I don't want anything to steal the attention from maybe the tree line or whatever the focal point is. Yes, I think this is okay. And usually it does a really good job. Usually you don't need to go back and correct anything. It's just gonna do wonders. Okay, so we are back and it actually did do a really good job. So now suddenly all of our filters are gone and you might wonder why. The workspace here is completely clear. This is because we have created a new layer. So by masking out our sensor spots and removing the details over here, we created a new layer. So if we go to our first layer, the layer all the way down here with our file name, you can see that we still have the control we want in this layer. We could also continue in this layer. It wouldn't be a problem. So just if we want to go on professional, we can do so. I'm gonna click clear because for me this image is actually done. I don't want to do anything more on this. This was a basic edit. And in the next few episodes, we are gonna go a lot more into the details and maybe some philosophy and maybe some technical stuff that I feel you need to learn. And this series is going to go in two directions. It's gonna be a series for the complete starter, and it's gonna be a series for the more advanced user. So stay tuned for that. I will announce the series. I will make playlists on my YouTube channel. So if there pops up a couple of new playlists, you know that, hey, something's happening about this series. Anyway, if you want to buy Luminar 3 or Aurora HDR, you can just go through the links in the description, and when you check out, you can apply a coupon called TG Photo Life. So it's TG Photo Life in one word when you check out, and you will get, I think it's 10% off the price. So that's pretty awesome. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up. If you want to watch more videos from me, make sure to subscribe, and I really hope to see you again. And thanks a lot for watching.